This perfect. Cool. So this group is between tonight, it is Ripple Wellness and Dr. Shannon Anhorn with Cloud Chiropractic. But for all four of them, this group is a collaboration with Ripple Wellness, Cloud Chiropractic, Therapeutic Associates Physical Therapy in Camas, Camas Family Health in downtown Camas, and Pain Relief Partners in Vancouver. And the reason it came about is because all of us know each other, we refer to each other, we co-treat patients, and we talked as healthcare providers about how we all saw a huge spike in 2020 in stress-related conditions. So we thought it would be interesting to kind of present to the community what we were seeing in the clinic and how we could help and kind of hear from people what they were looking for. So we did TMJ and jaw pain a couple months ago, and then tonight we're doing anxiety, and then we have a couple more up our sleeve, which I don't want to reveal quite yet till we make the final call on those. But it's a great collaboration and we're super excited to be doing it. So I would like to start with just having each of our panelists just introduce themselves and their clinic, and we'll start with Dr. Shannon.
Great. Hi, I'm Dr. Shannon Anhorn, and I'm the owner of Cloud Chiropractic, and we are located on the east side of Vancouver, right on the Camas border by QFC. And I have two associates that work with me, Dr. Laura Town and Dr. Elizabeth Balducci. And we are a specialized chiropractic and craniosacral clinic that really focuses on whole body. We have a special little niche in seeing a lot of pregnant moms and postpartum moms and infants, but we do see everybody. And our practice is a little different because we spend a lot of time with our patients. Our first visits are an hour, and our follow-up visits are all half an hour. And so you get a lot more than just a quick adjustment. We do lots of modalities like cupping or some breathing training, which you'll hear about a little bit later, and craniosacral and craniofacial therapy. So that's a little bit about us.
Hey, Shannon, and you guys can tell me, am I the only one having trouble hearing Shannon?
No.
Okay, so Shannon, it's not coming. I think you're gonna have to just be closer to your mic.
I'm using my neighbor's. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Using my neighbor's setup. He has like all the fancy things. So, and he doesn't have two twins running around. So yeah. Do you want me to repeat that, or you guys got it? Are we good?
I say repeat. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
So I'm Dr. Shannon Anhorn. I'm the owner of Cloud Chiropractic. We are in East Vancouver, Camas, and I have two other associates that work with me, Dr. Laura Town and Dr. Elizabeth Balducci, and we specialize in treating the whole person chiropractically, and we spend a lot of time with patients. So your first visit is going to be an hour, follow-up visits are all a half hour. So we do more than just a quick adjustment. We do muscle work, we do craniosacral, we do craniofacial therapy. So it's really more of a whole body than just a quick in and out. And then we really specialize in treating pregnant women, postpartum, and infants. Can you hear me now? Great. Let's have to sit up.
Emily Penn, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm Emily Penn. I'm the nutritionist at Ripple, and I recognize a few names on here. Some of you might recognize me. I was the first nutritionist at Ripple several years ago, and I've recently joined back on remotely. So I'm taking all my clients remotely over Zoom, and I can do my counseling that way.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeff Olson, run Ripple with my wife here, and we essentially have a team of people that, the idea is that we can be a hub for people's healthcare that's natural. We have Dr. Cecilia Cox for naturopathic medicine, who's amazing, and we have Emily Penn, who you just met, and we have 4 wonderful massage therapists, 2 acupuncturists, including myself, and my wife Emily for yoga therapy and breathing and meditation practices. So we have a pretty wide, variety of things to offer for people dealing with a wide variety of things, and so it's kind of you know, a version of primary care. So in terms of what I see right now, anxiety wise,
Oh, not quite yet.
later. Oh,
Later,
good. Okay,
later.
good.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
good.
And then, yep, and I'm Emily Olson, and I'm a yoga therapist and yoga teacher at Ripple. So I work one-on-one in private yoga sessions with people who just are not interested or ready to join a group class, but they want to get into yoga. And then recently, in the last couple of years, I've also been focusing on one-on-one breathwork sessions for people that know that there's something going on with their breathing. They know that they want to get into deep quote unquote breathing, but they are not really sure where to start. So I do breathwork sessions with people there as well. Okay. So yeah, let's start. And again, we'll just do this kind of roundtable style. And if you guys could hold your questions, like Vanessa said, we'll do questions at the end through the chat field and with the hand raise. So the question that I want to start with our panelists, and again, we'll start with Dr. Shannon and just roundtable it, is how is anxiety presenting to you in the clinic? What are you seeing and what do you have to offer?
All right, so we have seen a huge uptick in anxiety and anxiety-related disorders in our clinic, and they're presenting in just more people are having headaches, more people have migraines. I think pain in general is just heightened because people's nervous systems are really just on the fritz. And so I want to teach you guys a little bit about nervous systems. So we have two different nervous systems. We have our sympathetic nervous system, that is your fight or flight nervous system, and you have your parasympathetic nervous system, and that is your rest and digest nervous system. So when, as a society, as people, we are under increased stress, we kind of live in that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight nervous system. And so people end up not breathing, they hold their bodies tighter. And so everybody's already in this sympathetic state. And so what we offer is trying to help you get out of that sympathetic and get you into parasympathetic, which is really your rest and digest nervous system. So when you come in and you have increased neck pain, back pain, headaches, and anxiety, your body is just holding everything so tight. And so if we can take a couple layers off of your body and allow your nervous system to relax a little bit, then sometimes those anxiety symptoms also relax a little. So we've been doing a ton of cranial sacral therapy with patients. Cranial sacral is a very light touch modality that really helps your nervous system go from that sympathetic fight or flight to that parasympathetic nervous system. And then just doing some massage work. And I think really people are just so isolated and they haven't had touch or human connection. So to be able to come in and get some hands-on care, I think just being around a person can be really helpful. I know I had 5 minutes, but I think I wrapped that up pretty quick. So. Emily Penn, you ready?
I am ready. Okay, so as a nutritionist, anxiety is usually not the primary reason that someone comes to see me. But through my intake process, I find out that it's present in most of my clients. So, you know, a lot of people come to see me to work on digestive issues or diabetes, weight loss, sometimes pain management, hormonal issues. Those are usually the kind of reasons that someone will schedule an appointment with me to begin with. And as part of my intake, I always ask, are you experiencing more anger, depression, or anxiety that you would like? And most people say yes. And it's all tied together. And I don't think that it's been until very recently that we understand the extent of the mind-body connection and just how much physically it's connected to our mental health, and how what we eat and put into our body really affects the state of our emotions. So for example, now we know that most of our serotonin is produced in the gut. Studies show that 95% of serotonin is produced in our gut, which is 400 times more than our brain produces. So a lot of the times we think about these mood disorders or disturbances as kind of being more in the brain. And now we're coming to understand that they may originate elsewhere in the gut. And that's a huge thing that I work on with a lot of my clients. So, when it comes up that they're also suffering from anxiety, which is super common for a variety of reasons. It could be situational, but your diet could actually have a lot to do with it as well. I know that personally, when I was younger, I suffered from a lot of anxiety, and that was one of the biggest changes that I noticed when I changed my diet. Was my anxiety decreased dramatically. And that's not why I changed my diet. That was kind of just a happy side effect that I experienced. And I've seen that with clients as well. And I noticed some other things, some connections, like usually it affects their sleep as well. So a lot of people will stay up with sort of like these ruminating thoughts that prevent them from getting good sleep, which then the next morning will, mess with their blood sugar and make them tired and more anxious throughout the day. So it's sort of this cycle that you got to kind of get control of. So the way that I help people do that is I focus on two main things when it comes to anxiety. We focus on the state of the gut, since that's such a large part of this whole equation. So I help people figure out the foods that are best to take out that could be causing inflammation or just causing a reaction in their body. And then I help them put in gut nourishing foods that are going to help increase the health of the gut, increase the good bacteria that are in there, and the overall state of the microbiome. And then the second thing that I focus on is blood sugar balance. And this is huge for pretty much every health condition out there, but it contributes to anxiety a lot. When we're on a blood sugar roller coaster all day long, it causes so much anxiety. And it's not something that we really realize, but if you've ever experienced the blood sugar dip, where you start maybe getting a little sweaty, or your heart starts beating a little faster, you feel a little lightheaded, and then that's relieved by eating again, usually sugar or carbohydrates, and that'll kind of bring you back up. That's the blood sugar roller coaster, and that contributes to anxiety a lot. So two major things that I focus on with anyone who mentions that they're experiencing more anxiety that they would like are the gut and blood sugar balance.
Yeah, in terms of what I'm seeing right now, I'm sure it's reflected with what everybody else is seeing these days, but it's people having a hard time, getting overwhelmed by life and stresses, of course. And one of the things that, Emily Penn mentioned nutrition. I also can, relate to that as well. I had some pretty terrible anxiety in my teens and 20s, and there was a moment where I finally realized that, basic good nutrition and cutting out, some of the typical culprits was pivotal for, a big change there. So I often spend some time, discussing just basics or referring them on to, other folks to dig a little deeper, because it's a huge area. There's a lot of lack of awareness around what kinds of foods can contribute to anxiety. But basically, I'm seeing people that are having a hard time managing their stress. And so, I use the tools of acupuncture and Chinese medicine to do that. And there's time. It's essentially what I'm providing is a time and a place to focus on that, and to open up a dialogue on that, to talk about lifestyle issues. Chinese medicine is, like 3,000 to 5,000 years old, right? So there's all kinds of little tips and tricks and little wisdoms that are passed on that I've been, learning about for a long time, and really love to share with people. So that's a big part of what I do. And then, acupuncture itself, essentially, what we're doing is we're looking at the signs and symptoms that people have, and we're coming up with we're looking at that constellation of symptoms and signs, and we're coming up with a pattern. We're looking for a pattern that shows where things are out of balance, what organ systems are out of balance. And the lens of Chinese medicine is really wonderful in that it gives you this sort of nuanced picture of somebody, and then it gives you actual points on the body to work on, to try to create a shift in, like Dr. Shannon was saying, to try to shift the nervous system out of that fight or flight mode into a rest and relax mode. So typically what happens is if we get the pattern right as an acupuncturist, people we'll pick the right points, and people will shift into a state of, much greater relaxation, where a lot of, good healing, can happen. And, to give you an example of how stress shows up on my table, sometimes it's the gut, right? And they have, acid reflux or stomach issues or constipation. And the nervous system is so intimately tied to the gut, that stress short circuits that connection very, very well. And so, one of the things we do is just get people on the table, get them breathing, get them present, and then work on points that help connect their nervous system back to that gut-brain connection in a healthy way. So a few points on the abdomen, a few points to try to trigger a relaxation response in the body, and then, healing happens. The other thing that happens a lot is that stress manifests as pain, and then, pain ultimately tends to become injury or, more severe illness. So, acupuncture is great for releasing tension and helping resolve pain, increasing blood flow, dealing with inflammation, calling out some resources from the body to help with the healing process. So sometimes I'll feel people's pulses, and they're just extremely tense, and it's not just life, it's oftentimes it's pain. So that can be a big driving force for anxiety as well. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Cool, thank you.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then I do private yoga sessions and breathwork sessions. So anxiety, of course, presents as just kind of like what we're all seeing: a lot of headaches, insomnia, fatigue, and just general, yoga is kind of an auxiliary thing, right? So people come and decide to spend money on yoga sessions because they really do want to like improve their quality of life. So just like overall malaise and that kind of thing, I see a lot in yoga sessions. So, I wanted to just kind of share with you all the perspective that I take in yoga and that I explain to a lot of my clients in the way that I look at anxiety. And the way I see it is anxiety is like living on very, very choppy water, right? So it's like if you're looking out at a body of water and there's all this white water and waves in like every direction, wind coming from every direction. And that is like our mind on anxiety, right? With anxiety. And of course, it's the spectrum from mild to severe. But what I believe and what a couple of the wisdom traditions that I've studied have taught is that underneath those waves is like a very, very deep stillness. And that stillness is available to all of us. And so really, it's just a matter of like finding what tools are going to bring us to that still, deeper place. And I use this analogy a lot. If you've ever surfed or if you've looked out at surfers on the beach, they have to paddle past that white water to get to the flat water to catch the big waves, right? And paddling past that white water takes a lot of strategy. It takes a lot of strength. But once you get past it, you can hit those still waters of the ocean that have the more like bigger, better waves. So that's how I see it. So whatever gets people to that stillness is what we need to do more of. And I think typically it's not one thing. It's not just diet. It's not just going to the chiropractor. It's not just doing acupuncture. There's writers that call it habit stacking. You do one habit and then another and then another and then another. And then you can start to get a handle on it. But guys, I completely forgot to do my anxiety intro. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I'm gonna circle back around and hit that right now. So I just thought this was interesting. I mean, we all know what anxiety is. So my intro is gonna be very brief anyway, but I would like to share it with you guys. So I wanted to give you all a couple stats. This is in the United States alone. The Kaiser Family Foundation found that in 2020, 4 out of 10 people reported symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder or both, as opposed to 1 out of 10 in 2019. And honestly, that really sounded low to me anyway. But if 1 out of 10 in 2019, then that jumped to 4 out of 10 in 2020. So in 2020, adults reported a 36% increase in insomnia, 12% increase in alcohol and substance intake, 12% worsening of chronic conditions like pain and gastrointestinal digestive issues. So there's a number of different types of anxiety, and one can have a number of different types of anxiety, right? And each of those is on a spectrum. So here tonight, we're just taking like a very generalized approach to anxiety, but I didn't want to do this roundtable without mentioning that, of course, if anxiety is something that you're suffering from that's compromising the quality of your life, then of course it would be good to reach out to a mental health therapist. And we've been working really hard at Ripple and all just the healthcare community that I'm a part of to have a lot of good mental health resources for people in Camas, Washougal, and East Vancouver. So those are available too. And then anxiety, just, by definition, how they are, categorizing it and how it shows up physically and physiologically is what we've all mentioned: headaches, insomnia, fatigue, shortness of breath, increased heart rate, digestive issues, and muscle aches and pains. Okay. So hopefully better late than never on that intro. And now I thought it would be interesting to do a roundtable starting with Dr. Shannon again. What is the biggest hurdle that you see with anxiety, with treating your patients with anxiety in the clinic? Like, what are you guys coming up against?
Yeah, so I feel like just getting that patient to stop and actually be present in the moment. I mean, they're running here, in between Zoom meetings, being here, being there. And so I feel like our biggest hurdle is getting patients to just stop and be like, okay, be here with me. Tell me, how are your symptoms? Like, are your symptoms better? And most of the time, or what I see so often, is these patients come in and they're just like, I think it's better. I don't know. I think I have a headache. I've had a headache every day. I don't know. And they're just on this continuous cycle of go. And so, like, sitting on the table and having someone's hands on them, like, okay, I need to teach you how to breathe, right? And Emily talked a little bit about breathing. I want to go in a little bit more just on the anatomy of breathing. When we are in our parasympathetic nervous system, we should be breathing primarily with our diaphragm. That's the kind of large muscle mass, fascial mass underneath our lungs. And when you breathe in, it should come down. And when you breathe out, it should come up. And so kind of to circle back into what everyone else was saying with digestion and headaches and sympathetic nervous system, when you are not using your diaphragm, when you're just using your neck to breathe, then that puts you in a sympathetic state. And so people come in and they're like, I just don't know why my neck hurts so bad. And I'm like, well, I do. You are breathing like you're running away from a bear, right? And you have been, right? 2020 was one heck of a large bear, and we have been running away from it. But really, we need to not be in that sympathetic state all the time. We really need to start to breathe and use that diaphragm the way it was meant to. And when the diaphragm is moving the way it's supposed to, it actually has connections into your colon. So it can actually help aid in digestion. I had a patient the other day who I taught how to breathe a couple of weeks ago. All of her neck tension just melted away. And then she's like, I was seeing this naturopath for constipation, but ever since I started breathing, my digestion has gotten better, right? And so, she's now using that diaphragm. And so to get patients to stop and to actually breathe and be in the moment is kind of my biggest barrier. But once we do, I feel like it's very successful. Does that answer your question? All right.
All right. And when it comes to nutrition, sort of in that same vein that Shannon was just talking about being in the moment and being present, we just get so caught up in our habits, and the change is really hard. So when someone comes to me to change their diet, that's exactly what they're going to have to do is change. But that can be really hard, especially with habits and emotions around food that we've held for a really long time. So I think that would be the biggest hurdle that I see in terms of working with anxiety is actually putting, everything that we talk about into practice. And that's what I help my clients do, is I help support them through that change and help them understand why it's important and why we're making the changes that we are. So I would say that's the biggest thing. And then also I just want to mention that gut healing is a very long-term game. So you can see a lot of immediate benefits when you do change your diet, but gut healing can take a really long time. So it's going to depend on the person, but it could be anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year for some people. So it's definitely, it's one of those things that you really have to stick to for a while. And it might be several months before you notice any difference or any results. But you will see it. It's just making those changes and then sustaining them for a long enough amount of time for your gut to really catch on. So, I mean, the gut's amazing. The cells turn over every few days, but again, it's that long-term healing, especially so much of us have been, consuming too much refined sugar for 30, 40, 50 years. I see a lot of that. And so, having your body adjust to that and having your gut adjust to that takes time. So those are a couple hurdles that I see, but it's absolutely possible to achieve.
Jim?
Yeah. In terms of the biggest hurdles I see, they're reflected in what Emily and Dr. Shannon said. But basically, I think the biggest obstacle that I see is just a lack of commitment to incorporating a number of different techniques or interventions or management practices to manage stress, right? So I sometimes have this conversation with patients where when they're extremely overwhelmed by life, of almost like thinking of it as though you're managing it like you'd manage anything else, whatever. And you're going to do a number of different things. It's like spokes in a wheel. The wheel doesn't work unless most or all of the spokes are in place. And so it's nutrition and it's sleep habits and it's, is your back killing you all the time and you need a chiropractic adjustment? Or, are you worried that your blood work is off and your hormones are off and you need to take a look at that and look at it honestly and not just let it go another year, those sorts of things. So the sort of commitment to plugging away at it, I think, is really important. And like Emily said, it's something that usually happens really slowly and with a lot of effort and time and patience. And so that kind of ties into like a daily practice too. I think one of the really important things with making a headway is to chip away at it on a daily basis. There's a saying in traditional Chinese medicine that, the sun rises and sets every day without fail. It doesn't skip a day. The moon rises and sets every day. The seasons change, rhythmically and without fail. And there's an element of that rhythmic quality in life that's really healing. It's really powerful. And so that kind of example of nature is important, I think. And then I also see people who they just feel stuck. They feel like they don't know what to do. They don't know, who to go to. And oftentimes I'll see parents with kids who have terrible anxiety. I've had a number of them, and I'll end up saying and talking with them about finding ways to teach mindfulness for themselves. There's a lot of amazing apps out there that you can do, like a 5-minute one when you're falling asleep and a 5-minute one when you're getting up in the morning to set your day off right. If kids are spinning out of control, it's like you're trying to relate to them in a way that they can start to do things that are mindfulness oriented. So if they're into sports, I mean, the sky's the limit. There's mindfulness practices in sports. It's a proven fact that it improves performance, mental focus, that kind of thing. So relating to kids where they're at is something that I end up, talking to my teens or the parents of my teen patients. And then making time. So part of the whole, daily practice or commitment to putting all the pieces together is making time. And there's another quote. I don't think it comes from Chinese medicine, but it's the person comes in and says, I'm way too stressed out to meditate for, even 10 minutes, and the teacher of meditation, whoever that is, says, oh, you're too stressed out. Oh, you need to meditate 20 minutes, so that's your homework. Go meditate 20 minutes. So it's kind of like that. We got to make time. And, it's amazing when you look at how much digital content, you know, we have in our life. There's oftentimes there's you know, some of that can be carved out to make time for some of these things, a nature walk, or you know, using an app, or taking a Tai Chi class, or whatever it is, right? Whatever gets you at least a little excited to get going, you know, on doing something, and stick with it. So that's what I got.
Mhm. I think that I really like that story too. It's I think it goes, if meditate for 10 minutes a day, unless you're really busy, and then meditate for 30 minutes a day.
Nice.
Right? So the idea is like we need it even more.
Right.
So I agree with Jeff, and I've probably stole this from Jeff at some point, but I think the biggest hurdle, the way I look at it, is it's like your wellness is on balance scales, right? And so here on this side of the scale is what are you doing to contribute to your wellness? And here on this side of your of the scales is what is exacerbating these conditions that are taking away from it. And we need to have what's here outweigh this, right? And that's not an easy formula. So it's just like all of us said, unfortunately, there's no magic bullet. That's why for this anxiety panel, I could have had like a bajillion providers and people weighing in on this, because there's just, it's creating and carving out a good life that where you're really able to manage kind of what comes your way is nuanced, but it's not, I think there are simple things that we can do. Of course, I would say that one of the biggest hurdles, I agree with Shannon, is not when clients just aren't able to carve time to slow down. So I think that's really a tough one, because sometimes it means that you have to make choices about bigger things in life. And sometimes I think we think everything can be this little quick fix, but when we really have to figure out how to slow our life down a little bit, whatever that means, day by day, week by week. So there's those little decisions and little things we can add, but then there's also big things. So one of the things that yoga does that I think is really helpful is it helps slow down the thoughts in the mind. And the way it does that is you're coordinating breath with movement. So instead of just listening to that mental looping, you're being very intentional of what that looping is saying. And that can be counting your breath. It can be using a mantra, which is just a mental repetition of a phrase, whether that's in another language or in your primary language, whatever it is. But that's how yoga kind of breaks that mental looping. So it's really effective for that. And then of course, it helps facilitate deep breathing, which is awesome. And then it can also set us up, our body and our mind and our breath. It can set us up to sit or do walking meditation if that is your thing. Okay. So, and I know we're all going to overlap here, but let's just like do it. Number one tip for people, Dr. Shannon.
Right. I already told Emily I was going to steal hers, but if you can get in and do some good diaphragmatic breathing, 2 minutes twice a day is really all it takes. Some gentle movement, but I have been shocked at the amount of improvement and amount of change I've seen when patients just spend 2 minutes twice a day. And that is really not that much, right? Like we all have 2 minutes that we play on our phone or we watch a TV show. But if you can spend 2 minutes just laying down in a quiet place and really focusing on your breath, I think you're going to see a lot of changes throughout your day. Like that little step, focusing within, really sets you up to make different choices throughout the day. And I feel like I'm going to like clean sweep everybody with this one. Be like, you know, when you wake up and you spend 2 minutes on yourself, then you make a healthier breakfast choice, you make a healthier movement choice, you take a breath before you react to your children, like all of those things. Maybe you stretch a little bit, but those little habits go a really long way. So if you're feeling really overwhelmed and, you know, you can't go see all of us, I would challenge you to try breathing 2 minutes twice a day. You can look on YouTube, look up diaphragmatic breathing, look up piston breathing, but really focusing on allowing your breath to work and see how the rest of your day unfolds. So sorry for taking everybody.
Okay, nobody's gonna like me after my recommendations, but here they are. So I'm cheating a little bit. Number one tip would be to cut out these three things if you're experiencing anxiety. If you drink caffeine, cut out caffeine, or at least reduce your intake. That absolutely drives up your heart rate, drives up stress levels in the morning. You know, a lot of us feel it when we have too much. You get sweaty, you get shaky. So cut out caffeine, cut out alcohol. I know a lot of us use it as a stress reliever at the end of our day, as an anxiety reliever when we feel that way. And it feels good in the moment, but long term, that's dysregulating your body and your response. So, you know, you feel good in the moment, but then the next morning you're not going to feel any better. And then the third is sugar. So that's part of that larger picture of getting off that blood sugar roller coaster and stabilizing your blood sugar levels, so that you have steady energy, and you will notice a huge difference in your moods, and in the ups and downs that you experience throughout the day. If you can get that blood sugar stable, you're going to experience a lot more even energy and a lot more even moods.
You guys might hate me even more than you probably hate Emily Penn right now.
Not
I'm gonna
possible.
give you mine. I got two. The first one you're gonna hate. About 5 years ago, I realized that I was more anxious than I had to be when I realized that watching like certain hyper dramatic like movies and shows and like all the stuff that we love that's amazing. I'd stay up a little too late, start the next day a little short on sleep. And I realized once I quit it pretty much once and for all, that I was noticeably happier and more relaxed. And so I would encourage people to, figure out, what that visual intake of those, super, so it could just be like a really kind of souped up drama or kind of shoot 'em up adventure or whatever it is, but some kind of really disturbing visual images is basically what I found makes me more anxious and makes me stay up later. The other one is just spending time in nature. I've dealt with a lot of anxiety, like I mentioned in my earlier life, and one of the things that felt really profound for me was just spending time out in nature, whether that means just taking your lunch outside, being outside and doing breathing practices. To me is like stress management on steroids. And so whether you like Tai Chi or Qigong, or simply just keep it really straightforward, like Dr. Shannon says, and just start with a really small, simple practice, that's gonna pay huge dividends. But really, any activity that you like outside, do it, and start to choose it maybe more than spending time on a screen, and start to think about it as an investment in your health and happiness.
Yeah, and I would say, well, I came here to say breathing, and then I was going to say nature. So what I think could be good, I think a good tip could be to do a little bit of digging on what is appropriate for you. So something like, I am a staunch meditator. If you guys ever want to talk about meditation, like, I'm your girl. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. But it's not for everybody. If you have very intense anxiety and you turn on a 20-minute meditation from the Calm app, you will probably jump out of your skin and hate every second. And so you need to kind of do some digging and meet yourself where you're at. If you tend to be someone that kind of goes more on the spectrum of depressive, and it's hard for you to motivate, then maybe like sitting on your couch and meditating for 45 minutes feels good to you, but maybe like getting the let out and getting on a trail and doing some exercise could kind of balance that out a little bit. That's what I've learned in my personality type. I have a very fiery personality type, so I definitely sway more towards the anxious type than the depressive type. So I need to just slow my roll. So I work a lot on rest, mindful walking, instead of running on the trail, just following my dog wherever he wants to go, and kind of figuring that out that way. So I'd say that was my tip. There's a lot of great practitioners out there that are experts in kind of helping people dig a little bit and find what would really work for them. So I hope we didn't overwhelm you guys. I hope this was some good information and some good inspiration. Let's open it up. I am going to already, there are some chats. So I'm going to start and just read. I really like this first chat. So I'm just going to read this one right out of the gate. And then you guys just raise your hand. Vanessa's going to keep an eye on the chats. I'm going to keep an eye on the hands. You raise your hand by going to participants, your participants tab in Zoom. But this first one, Penn, can you give specific foods to help heal the gut? Oh, wait. Yeah, what are some specific foods to help heal the gut, Emily? Penn.
Yes, so some specific foods to help heal the gut. You really want to focus on anti-inflammatory foods. So herbs and spices can be really powerful. You know, you may have heard turmeric as being one of the top anti-inflammatory foods. So that's really great for the gut. Bone broth is really great for the gut. And then, you know, a little bit more specifically geared towards anxiety. Omega-3s are very important. So like wild caught salmon, chia seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts, those are all good foods too. Everyone's going to be everyone's unique. So it can vary from person to person. And then I'd also just like to add, if, you know, not just cutting out dairy or gluten, if you're putting a lot of good things into your gut, but you're still not taking out the things that could be potentially causing inflammation or causing damage to your gut lining, it's not enough to outweigh the damage. So you've got to do a combination of both. You've got to take out the stuff that could be harming you and then put in the good stuff. But some of my top recommendations would be bone broth and turmeric, and obviously plenty of fruits and vegetables.
And then a little back and forth from Ms. Emily Campbell kicking it off on like, how do you get outside when it's freezing out there? And Emily, it is true. Gear, girl. You just got to get the right gear and the right dog, I think.
And also I found too, like I used to bicycle commute all year long, and one summer I stopped doing it, and then I went to do it again in the winter, and it was like this rude awakening, and it was so hard. But then it just took about 2 or 3 weeks of pushing through it, and then it became really easy. You know, then it was just like, okay, this is what I do. And gear, right? Gear. Mm-hmm.
And forest cover, go to Lacamas where you can just be under the forest cover and it's not like pouring on you. But oh my gosh, I mean, around here, you guys, the winter is just like, just looking up at those trees, it's just so green and awesome, you know? So
yeah, keeping your, like, the gear is really important, and the fibers you use. I got some really great wool, like base layers. It keeps you warm and dry. So I think like keeping your base warm, making sure your hands are warm and ears are warm are kind of like the main thing. And just having that investment. And I have a running buddy, and we've ran every week for the last year. And it was amazing to see, like, we actually did much better in the winter than we thought. And so sometimes you just have to like force yourself, like, all right, it's Thursday at 6 a.m. I run, like, except for we did not run in the ice, we did not run in the smoke. So those were our 2 exceptions. But you just have to like make it that habit and just like realize you're not made of sugar, you will not melt.
yeah, anything else come up for you guys? What do you guys think? Are we too idealistic, or is this stuff like possible? It's totally possible, right? Anything? I think we're all kind of like coming on, we'll see what the direction the pandemic is going in, but I feel like we can all kind of like take a breath again and start to think about things that are more than just survival mode, right? So that's where all this like wellness stuff starts to come in, and it's really awesome.
Here we go.
Let's see. Stephanie Jones mentioned another comment on the food. Look at probiotic and prebiotic foods. Absolutely. So for anyone who may not know, the probiotics are the good bacteria in your gut that your gut needs to be healthy and thrive. And then the prebiotics are the food for that for the good bacteria that are in your gut. So probiotics would be like kombucha, yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. Some people take a probiotic supplement, and then prebiotic is usually fiber from vegetables that the good bacteria feed on. And you definitely need a balance of both, and daily too is important.
This is such an awesome question. I'd love for us all to touch on this. How do you slow down when society thinks you are lazy if you aren't going? And I will just say that all the people that I follow on Instagram like really love rest. Like rest is like very trendy right now. So I don't feel bad at all about slowing down. I love to take naps. I mean, this weekend we took like a couple naps over the weekend because it was the weather was just really, it just called for it. So I don't feel bad. I don't even feel bad. One thing that I'm working towards owning Ripple, this has been a long haul. We're at like 4 years, and Jeff and I are, we've teetered on burnout for sure. And one thing that we're working towards is a 4-day work week. And I feel self-conscious, like saying to our staff that we are not going to work 5 days, but I know that it's for the best for everybody. So it's just something that's just like an ongoing thing of how much rest do you need? So you have anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of pressure from society, to, our American work ethic is unparalleled, in the world in a way. And, in some ways, finding ways to still make a living and still fulfill your obligations to your family and people and society, and still have time to not have like adrenal burnout and major hormonal issues, because you're, trying to take care of yourself and taking time. It's I think it's kind of an act of social, healthy act of social rebellion, and something that we should all, contemplate. And, one of the things I was going to touch on was, reading, reading for me, and I know for Emily too, has been, pivotal for understanding things differently. And so finding good sources to help create a perspective that gives you some ability to pan out and see the bigger picture is important. Yeah.
I have something to add to that. I think how you label yourself is how other people will view you. So if you label yourself as lazy, then other people will see that. But if you label yourself as these are the hours I work, and this doesn't work in every job, I understand that, but I personally work what I call princess shifts. And then someone recently was like, no, you work boss shifts. And I send that to my entire staff. Like, it is not my goal to work everybody to their death. And so it's not being lazy, it's really being smart. And so I don't label myself as lazy because I only work 2.5 days a week. I label that as smart. And it allows me to live the life that I want. And so I think stop labeling yourself as lazy and own it and be like, today is a rest day. And I saw something on Instagram, like, that's not part of my journey today. And I just think that's funny. So yeah, stop labeling yourself.
I just want to add one more thing to that too. Whenever I kind of think twice about taking a rest or taking some downtime, just think about building the kind of world that you want to see. And I want to see a world where people work less and slow down and enjoy life more. And so every time I choose to do that, I feel like I'm putting it out there and I'm inspiring other people and giving other people permission to do it and slow down, because a lot of people just need that permission. Like Emily was saying, when she sees people on Instagram and they're like all about rest right now, that empowers her to take rest and not feel guilty about it. So I think just keep that in mind. Like, you're setting an example and you're setting a boundary and a standard.
Couple chats here. We could, providers, if you guys are panelists, if you guys are so inspired, there is a request to leave in the chat field, like your most inspiring or number one top must read or TED Talk or something, if you guys think of it. we could leave it in the chat, or we could email it to Vanessa and she could email it out when she emails the recording of this. So we could do that. And then this is from Emily. This is a really good question. Another Emily. Health and wellness services can be expensive. So how do you figure out where to make your investments, especially when you're feeling particularly anxious or out of balance and need some support ASAP? So true, wellness services can be expensive. The first place to start, I think, is to see what's covered under your insurance and to look at what is the most exacerbating symptom for you. Are you in pain? So does that mean chiropractic or physical therapy or massage or acupuncture? Or is your gut in pain? Is that something that would be more appropriate for nutrition? You know, insomnia, those kinds of things. I would say you just kind of start there with your number one symptom and then start to work your way back. And there are some other awesome resource people on this panel that I don't want to call you out unless you want to call yourselves out, but I'm looking at all of you, you know who you are. So you guys could also be a resource for people. There's so much around here. So yeah, do you have anything?
You know, kind of, if the budget is limited, thinking creatively, I think can work. And essentially, I think a lot of life is sort of this combination of like logic and following instinct. And so if in a quiet moment, you are drawn to a particular provider or a particular modality, and you're worried that like you can't afford a full course of treatment, or you know they're going to want to see you 10 times and you can't do it, then maybe you go once. Like I tell some of my patients that I know really need physical therapy that don't feel like they can afford it. I say, like go once, get the exercises, get their perspective. They might have a terrible back injury with an old botched back surgery and they're just overwhelmed and they need perspective. A lot of us providers can provide perspective that can be really valuable. And once you have some perspective, it can open up doors to really inexpensive things that you can do. I mean, every one of us knows probably dozens of things for just about every condition that can be done that are free. So, I would say like follow your instincts, find, at least one or two people that you feel like are on your team, and then pick their brain, Oh.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I think it's really important to be very upfront with your providers, regardless, right? Because price is always going to matter. It doesn't matter if you have the best insurance. Like it's either price, time is your most valuable asset, right? And so how you spend that time and that money is so important. And so if I were to go and see Emily or Jeff and I'd be like, listen, time is of the essence. I don't have any childcare. This is what I have to spend. Then I can help you create your plan accordingly, right? And that also means that you're probably going to need to take more on yourself if you can't see me the way I want it. But if a patient comes in and tells me that their budget's really limited, I will try to create their treatment plan to still make them the best they can be, but still be really mindful of that budget.
All right, anything else? Let me see if I can see any hands. Yeah, totally. Cool. Is that it? Anyone else in the community want to introduce yourself as a resource in our health and wellness community right now? You guys don't have to, but if you do. Emily?
Yeah. Hi. Okay, yeah, I'm Emily, and I just wanted to offer that I recently started an Instagram account called the Vancouver Wellness Project. And on that page, I highlight wellness businesses and people in the community that are doing things that are supporting the health of people in our community. So if you are looking for a provider in a specific kind of area, definitely check out the page. And if you are a provider yourself, please do reach out because I would love to feature you as well if you're in Vancouver.
Oh, Stephanie, you're muted.
Where is she? Oh, there she is.
No, muted still. Hold on, I'm gonna mute and unmute you and see what happens. I can't unmute
Just wait
you.
then.
Your volume is up, like you're connected with your computer audio.
Okay, I'm going to introduce you. That is Stephanie Jones. She's a nurse practitioner at Pain Relief Partners. They are an amazing pain clinic on Mill Plain in Vancouver. Every person we've sent to them from Ripple has just been super thrilled. They do trigger point injections, they do regenerative medicine, and then Stephanie now does functional medicine. We kind of describe them as like the Ripple of pain clinic because they're like just as warm and fuzzy as Ripple are, which is hard to find in a pain clinic, honestly. So check them out, you guys, Pain Relief Partners. And I can't remember what your Instagram handle is right now, but if you search it, you can find it. And Emily, you should feature Stephanie because that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Anyone else want to introduce themselves as a resource in this area? You going to?
Can, good, yeah.
Do it.
Do you have to unmute her? No.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes. Hi, I'm Jen Resnick, and I'm the nutritional health coach at Natural Grocers. And I have to say that I'm so thankful for Ripple Wellness. They are amazing, you guys. And so using them as a resource and to do these roundtables and all the resources that they provide for our community are so inspiring. And I'm inspired by you all who took time on this beautiful evening to kind of consider your health, your wellness, and really what resources are out there. So Natural Grocers is an amazing place. I'm there. All my services are available to help you, to direct you to other resources in the community. So lots of great things in our community for you. And I'm just wanting to encourage you all to take those next steps. You've taken the first step by gathering information, but now just really seeing where you can implement some of these things that you've learned. So again, thank you, Ripple Wellness, for being great partners in the community to really make the members of our community healthy and well, and to know of all the resources that we have.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah.
All right, you guys. So yeah, we are a bunch of health and wellness nerds here, and that's why we all know each other, and that's why this roundtable is even happening. So just never be shy about just emailing any of us and looking for resources for PT, chiropractic, pain relief, PCPs, you know, whatever it is. Resources for teen anxiety. Yeah, we do see a lot of teens at Ripple for anxiety. Jeff sees a lot of teens. And then Dr. Shannon, you guys see a lot of teens, right?
We do. We actually see a lot of teenagers. And I would be like, teenagers actually like love coming in. And yeah, we see a lot of teenagers, and I feel like they respond so well to a little bit of chiropractic and craniosacral care for their anxiety.
I feel the same too. It's surprising, but not all, but many teenagers take to the acupuncture really well and get a lot of deep relaxation from it and some benefit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so providers, if you just want to like type in your #1 go-to on a good read, I'm going to do that now, and then we'll just wrap this up. So thank you guys so much, and we will unveil our next roundtable. Just stay in touch. Oh, you guys, hold on. Let me share this. This is just our handle here, so you guys have, wait, not that, this. this. I just wanted to show, I think you guys know, but just in case, there's us, Ripple Wellness, and that's our handle. So just keep in touch for the next roundtable. We have a newsletter. Campus Library has a newsletter, and then we're all on social. So that's how you would find all of us, Ripple Wellness and Cloud. And that's it. So thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much to Emily and Jeff and Emily and Shannon. And we hope that you will join us again when we have our next one. Have a good evening, everyone.